now, simply because most of the students are already opening up businesses. Most of them are still employed are now getting employed. Some of them have jobs as well. We are seeing students on the streets selling masks. Some have become chapat vendors. And remember, the issue with money is once you get the source of income, I don't know why you would want to, because you would see there's a certain song by a former presidential candidate, Bobby Wine, was saying, omuntu ndichosomya okufuna zekyende. So it's like if someone has actually gone to study for money, and you already have a job that is giving you money. For a student who's still 18 years old, they will have conflicting loyalty there. Whether you go back to school to study to get money or remain and work for the money they already have.
Well, it actually makes sense in that angle, but when we try to look at it from another perspective, education in its, okay, let's give an example. We need health workers.
Yeah, sure.
We need health workers. We need accountants. We need people. Okay, it's okay to have a business, but it's another factor when you have the knowledge on how to run that business. So that's what the education sector really does. And at some point, it's not really about what qualifications you get, but that information is very important. That's what I'm trying to approach it in that perspective of information. Because there is a big difference between someone actually who didn't study up to a certain level. However much we have these perceptions that, oh, people have made it without it. But I will tell you the truth. Viewers out there, the reality is most of these people that we look up to and we be like, hey, this person didn't go to school. How come they made it this way? Some of them, it was actually not their intention. They really wish they did complete. And actually some others, they say, I wish I had a chance, I would do it. And we've seen actually big people, rich people going back to study.
Yeah, they do. Most of them do.
Most of them, they go back.
And we even have adult education too.
Adult, exactly.
Someone knows by in 2 years, I can complete with my certificate or my degree.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it is easier. By the way, if you look at the competition that is at the university,
yes,
you would be surprised and shocked.
Yeah.
That it's always the working class people who are performing better
exactly
than the real students, who even have the time at the university, staying around the university,
exactly,
have the hostels. But then you find out that if you look at the results that come out, someone whom you look at as a busy person who has a busy schedule and is always at school like maybe twice or thrice a week, is actually performing better.
Exactly. But do you know why?
No, I'm actually, I don't really, I can't say I know why, because they are not at school. And if you come out and say, I think it is because they are mature enough, it will look like an overboard. But then I still think maybe because they know what they want, I guess.
Perfect.
Because I think they know what they want.
Perfect. You're very right. Simply because the challenge with our education sector is that when we were actually in school studying, at some point we were made feel like it's a punishment. I'll be honest. But it's really amazing for this generation. Actually, I'm really so grateful for this generation. The students for this generation, actually, you're very lucky. It's because you've really had quite a lot of career guidance in what you're doing, to the extent that, okay, those days we used to be scared of subjects like biology, chemistry, but I wish we could have career guidance and they could teach us actually, oh, if you study this is what you're going to be, this is how much you're going to earn, so that you grow up having that vision of, because now most of our young boys, when they grow up, they want to be, some of them want to be socialites, they want to be celebrities. Why? Because of the influence from the childhood they've been. And it's actually becoming more evident with the fact that most of them are not at school now. Exactly.
And the only source of information they have is social media.
Perfect.
And you know, if you're on social media, you're only getting the fake life amidst the reality. It is always the reality facing the fake life. Why? People on social media are faking the reality of life.
Exactly. Yeah,
because
that's
for them,
very true.
That is how they are running their showbiz.
Perfect.
You may find out that someone is not even earning more than $1 million.
Yes.
But if they post something onto their social media accounts, you may think they're living a luxurious lifestyle, but yet in the normal sense it's not.
Exactly.
Which has impacted the brains of the youth, their mentality has totally changed. And they think that if I woke up in the morning, quit school at 18, I'm going to go out there, record a song, or become a fashionista. By 25, I'm going to be cruising a Range Rover.
Exactly.
And yet none of them know the reality, because the reality is you cannot become successful at a young age.
Exactly.
Without toiling for it. Maybe you can become successful at a young age, but how have you got there?
How have you got there?
It has to be a long run.
Definitely.
And I think it is actually quite important for the schools to be reopened, because I suggest in most cases, I've always had this opinion in me, that if you look at the school setting in Uganda or the curriculum in Uganda, it is not that helpful with the available markets, because you'll find out that people who are working in some places did not study to actually go for such a career. So someone is actually doing a career quite different from that they studied. And it is because of the schools. And I've always had an opinion that education is very important for each one of us. You need the documentation, you need to have it, because at any one point, maybe in the future, you will need it for reference. And then the other thing is, mainly, education helps us to groom students, like parents. The time you have at home is not enough for your children, because some of the parents will wake up very early in the morning, go to work, you return late in the night. Students have time on their phones, or others are asleep. But if you put them at school, they get to interact with their fellows, same age bracket. Ideas are generated from there. Because if you and I sit and try out as much as possible to think of an idea, it does make sense. We can actually add up to something, because we know what is happening, we know the generation. Which is quite difficult when you're home. You're not getting the interaction with your parents, with your brothers. It is limited. So I think if you look at the situation with reopening of schools, it really needs to be reopened. And actually, not only on the side of that, when we also look at the other side, that the education sector being prolonged in the lockdown, it affects other subsectors that depend on the sector. For example, the textile, dealing in paper industry, rota trims
and books, embroidery.
Even look at even the stationary people. So that sector is really left out. And even people dealing in confectionaries, for example, Daddy's Cookies there. Mainly the kids, when they go into school, they pack those things. During invitation days.
So now that's quite challenging, the fact that such a sector is being affected. And in most cases, when we talk about the education sector being on a lockdown, the first people we think about are teachers. But the school owners too, and from their schools. That's why I was really happy to see that Casita is coming out together with the school owners, trying to urge the government to open up the schools. This is a sign of economic solidarity, because at such a time, we're all thinking of taking back our economy to the pre-pandemic levels. And the main aim right now, just like in the 1960s, the goal was independence, political independence. Right now, the goal should be economic independence. We need to get back to that level. So I'm really so pleased when I see such moves come. I hope other sectors of the economy, because when those sectors have a group that leads them, you don't only think about your sector, you think about another sector. So if the group that leads my sector, together with the group that leads another sector, their voice comes together, I believe we can achieve economic independence currently.
Because if you look at Casita, is an association that actually guides all the traders, regulating all the traders out there in Uganda. And in that perspective, I think they're looking at a way where the school proprietors are under the traders. Reason being, if you look at the private institutions, they are open to provide a service, but in return, money has to be given out. So a parent has to pay tuition, school fees, so as these facilities can be used or can be utilized by their students. And in the same way, to help the facilitation of the proprietors, the teachers, the non-teaching staff, a lot is attributed to that. And according to the Kampala City Traders Association, the Casita, they actually saying if Chikubo, we all know Chikubo has been operating now ever since the lockdown was lifted. So if at all Chikubo can maintain social distancing, I mean, we all know the level of schools.
Yes.
We've been through school, and you know how teachers can actually enforce a law in school.
Exactly.
If there is need to actually use canes or sticks, it is going to be possible.
Of course.
Social distancing at school, I just think it is very evident. Maybe when the president is actually, the government was just worried with the fact that the second wave of COVID hit the schools, and very, very badly, simply because if it comes to contraction, schools can actually contract it very fast.
Very fast, yeah.
Yes.
Very true, very right.
Just look at flu or other diseases at school. Once it is usually second term, where the weather conditions in Uganda normally change and are favorable for flu and any other flu and cough.
And cough, yes.
At that time, if at all a student enters class with it,
the entire
by
class.
the end of the term, everyone has at least got something out of it. So I think that is why it is there. But if you look at social distancing in school, it can easily be done.
Social distancing. Yes, it can be done on condition that actually the students keep the discipline. You know, sometimes most of these things we speak them from a side of formality, but I wish we do a strict follow-up. Yeah, you know. Because you're going to find a class where the students actually are non-term. Because, you know, schools actually spread this thing very fast, more than anything you can ever imagine.
Yeah, sure.
Because these students walk in so many places. We don't know the places where they go to. But we hope, because thank God that the vaccination program is going on currently. And though the vaccination still is not a guarantee, still we have to keep the SOPs despite the vaccination.
Yeah.
So, like they had suggested to open classes by classes, because we're going in phases. I think that's a good thing.
But I think in January, most of them will have reported all the classes. And the fact that a certain percentage of the population will have been vaccinated, so that makes it quite fair. But then that is also depending on the mindset of the people, and if they are willing to accept the vaccines, because the government is still urging most of the Ugandans to go for the vaccination. And the other issue is that kindergarten is also according to the new curriculum, we may not be having nursery education anymore.
Exactly.
So schools may be starting from P1. So we do expect that P1 classes may be reopened from January. Maybe from 8th to 10th of January then is when schools may be reopened. So if I told you just joining us, we are into that segment of the topical discussions where we analyze some of the few stories that are running through our business headlines as well. And with Mr. Andrew Barije here, he's the main man with a team Smart Mates Business. He's not a guest anyway. He's some of you may think he's a guest. He's not. He's part of Smart Mates Business, and later on he'll be taking us through the entertainment business sector. So you should wait and see what he has in stock for you. But as of now, we are talking about the issue of the closure of schools, the delay of the closure of schools. Something that is quite important, and education is one of the reasons as to why we, the two of us, are actually here to bring to you something. We went through the grassroots of education. We went through different norms, different teachers, saw different chalkboards, and we received different canes we received different sticks and canes from different teachers to put us to where we are, to the students we are. We've been mentored through education, so we think and we hope the government also reconsiders the same aspect. Education lays a very huge foundation in the future of anyone else. That is why you see that even people who have not received education at a young stage, once they are grown-ups and they have the money that can actually facilitate them, they go back to school to see that they fetch something called a document or feel something about education, because it is important. Access to information is quite important in anyone's life. At this particular juncture, I would say let's head into a break. When we do return, we conclude with the same issue where CASITA, that is the Kampala City Traders Association, together with the private school owners, have raised concern over the prolonged closure of schools and academic institutions. We are heading into a break. We shall return with the same issue.